Hey guys, Moose here. We are back with another episode of Stonehearth in our Ascendancy playthrough, and today is actually an interesting day. We got a couple options. It is February 25th, and we could go for another one that was just a year ago today, and that would be Super Hot. However, I think I'm going to save that for next year, because that got enough publicity that you probably mostly know what Super Hot is, and you've seen it, and it's cool and everything. You know, it's a good game. I'm not saying it's not. It's just probably... I don't think we need to cover it. It feels like that came out not that long ago, and like I said, it got plenty of coverage. So we will continue getting invaded non-stop here as we discuss the actual topic for today's episode, which is going to be the Homeworld Remastered Collection, which came out on this date in 2015, or 2 years ago today. I don't know why I said 4. It's not 2019. Feels like it's 2019, but let's not get into that. Yeah, so Homeworld Remastered Collection came out this date 2 years ago today. I played the original Homeworld, or not the original Homeworld, Homeworld 2. Is this not what I... Is this not what I think it is? Was there an actual remaster of the original? I thought there was only a remaster of Homeworld 2. Maybe I'm misremembering. That reminds me, I actually need to go back and play Homeworld Deserts of Karak, which I picked up, which is pretty fun, but I just haven't had the time to put into it, to be honest. I've been wanting to, but there's never any time. I think we want to get rid of this one too. Let him get through a couple traps before we deal with much more. Let's get those queued up here. We need more of these, so make like 50. And then make like 20. And then we need to do metal real quick. And we'll get back to discussing Homeworld in a second. One really noticeable thing about Homeworld is that it had amazing audio, which is fantastic. Story was pretty damn good too, and the art and like almost everything about it was amazing. The only thing that sucks is it's old. If it wasn't old, it would be a lot better, unfortunately. Do 14 there. Yeah, I don't need you to make this. I wish there was a new version. Oh, you're gonna get fucked, dude. Oh, they're not attacking. Oh, hell yeah. Well, that explains where a lot of our invasions are coming from. There's just so many camps. Alright, well, have fun running around. Hopefully you'll make it. By the way, I don't know if you can hear, but it's raining really hard. We're getting hit by a major storm here in California, so there's a lot of rain coming down. On the one hand, I want to say hopefully it doesn't flood, but I'd kind of like to work from home tomorrow, so maybe it will. That'd be nice. I would not mind some light flooding. Nothing too major, just, you know, a little. Yeah, let's just make like 20 of these. I don't really want to waste the healing herbs. In fact, you know what? I wouldn't mind getting some more healing herbs. Let's switch over a farm or two. What is this? We don't need this. Make cross snap. There we go. Oh, great. You've already fucked up every... God, I fucking hate archers so much. 2 people are messed up. Okay, you need to run home. Military needs to get over here immediately. Okay, they're coming. So the main thing that I want to talk about with Homeworld was that honestly, I don't feel like we have any good... We have really good first-person space games, but we don't really have like a phenomenal modern space RTS. And I know what you're saying. You're going to say, right off the bat, there's a couple that you could point out. You could say Stellaris is up there. I don't really see it as an RTS, but it is sort of, kind of, yeah, actually an RTS. And you could also say Sins of a Solar Empire, but Sins, I think, got kind of stale. It didn't do it for me in the same way that, it was a little bit too big, let me put it this way. I have a problem. If you put me in an RTS or a game like Stonehearth, any game, if you give me a choice about how big the map's going to be, I'm going to say make it as big as possible. Because I want as much room to play around with as possible. That's not the right decision. I should not be doing that, but I always do it because that's how I roll. So you can imagine if you played Sins of the Solar Empire, this causes some issues. So it's not ideal. It causes a lot of issues for me. The game basically takes way too long. And I think I talked about it before, but I had one nice memory is playing Sins of the Solar Empire late into the night with some friends, into the morning actually, where we had an ongoing game on a really large map against an equal number of AI, and it was great. It was a whole lot of fun, but also took way too long. Everyone's doing nothing. I really would like you guys to rescue this lady. Thankfully, at least it's just a worker. How much health? Halfway. Alright. Might be getting her, but I don't think so, because you're already carrying something. We'll see. Go away. Just stop with the fucking thieves and shit. You gotta be getting him, right? There we go. Lovely. Alright. No death. Fantastic. So yeah, most of the space-related games we have now are really mostly just single-player. Or not single-player, but first-person is what I meant to say. Like, you got Elite Dangerous, you got Star Citizen, you got games like that. And those are fantastic, I love them, and, you know, space is amazing, and it's great fun seeing and watching and playing those, but it's not what I'm going for here. I'm talking about a three-dimensional RTS, basically. And I think that is a lot more fun. And I also like that Homeworld was a bit slower paced, whereas something like StarCraft is very... I really don't like RTS games where you really have to be doing a lot of stuff constantly. I don't enjoy that. Like, I would honestly prefer if you just completely take out the ability to micro things and focus targeting and all this stuff. Like, I don't see that as the type of skill that I'm looking for out of that kind of game. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there for more like large-scale decision-making and trying to figure out, okay, how do I position myself to win here? That's more what's fun. Or like deciding what composition of forces am I going to have? How am I going to do this? What's the plan? You know, those kinds of things are fun to me. Finding the right unit to click in a very short, manic manner, like I'm playing a first-person shooter, that's not why I'm playing that genre. So games like that, there's really no desire for me to play them. It's just not fun. Whereas something like Homeworld felt much slower paced and much more methodical, and you have to decide what you want to do. Sins of Solar Empire kind of has that, but it takes it to a much higher level, and it's too far. It's too much big picture. I am looking for kind of the balance that Homeworld had, and I miss that. And I'm getting it a little bit from Deserts of Karak, don't get me wrong, I'm playing that and enjoying it, but I need more. Like, that's one game, and it's not really that big of a game. I'd really like to see something else along those lines, and we just don't really have that these days. It's just unfortunate, but I understand why they don't sell particularly well. But particularly having that kind of game in space in a three-dimensional environment is cool. I enjoy it a lot. And there's actually, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, there is a game that I could pick up that is along these lines. And Total Biscuit actually covered it. It was a Warhammer 40k, like a Battlefleet Gothic game, I think. That it seemed maybe a little bit too hardcore for my tastes, but I don't recall. I'm not super, like, I played Warhammer, both fantasy and 40k when I was younger, and spent way too much money on it, and I actually know how to paint minifigs okay. I'm not a particularly good artist, so I'm not great, but some of the color choices I made look nice. Technique, not so much, but the colors looked okay. I'm not really that into that setting anymore, though. I've kind of, like, it's run its course, I guess. Come on, click on him. One of these days, I'll get him. There we go. Archers are not interested. Or they're running around. I don't know. No, they're not interested. Alright, well, whatever. We're gonna back off here. Please. Please. Stop being such a pain in the ass. Just when I give you an order, could you follow it, please? Alright, I think I got enough archers that we're going to be able to deal with him. There's another one coming. Is this another invasion completely? Great. I really, like, this is not why. Like, I can't even build anything because I have to go look at... I have to interrupt my process of building and go look at an invasion every 5 seconds. This is definitely an issue with this game. Oh, and someone's hurt. Okay, we'll get you. People die there a lot. It's like a death alley spot there. What are you doing? How is it? Okay, this game needs to be... There's some critical things that need to be fixed here. If I play again, I'm just going to play on peaceful or whatever, because this is... just... the combat is just bad. Everything about the combat is bad. Anyway, I'm not going to complain about Stonehearth anymore. Let me shut up about that and keep talking about Homeworld, because there's a lot more to say about this game, I think. I know this game has a lot of history, and it's been handed around between developers, I think, but I don't really know much about it, so I'm going to shy away from that mostly. The main stuff I know about is Homeworld 2, and just kind of loving the story, and playing the remastered version a little bit as well. I think I picked it up, and then I picked up Deserts of Karak as well, which I talked about briefly. That's kind of more my wheelhouse. I did read about the original one, though, because I heard that Homeworld, the original, had some really, really good story and stuff, too. But I'd love to see more in this universe. I'd love to see more prolific work coming out of that setting, because there's some really fucking cool stuff. Like, it'd be really cool to have like a not an RTS, but like a space-based trading game would be really fun, because there's some, like, one of the plot elements is that there's this ancient race or something of progenitors or whatever you want to call them. I don't know exactly what they're called. I don't recall. I think they had the weird, like, circular ships, and they glowed yellow or gold or something. I can't recall, but they were like old school guys, and they would go around trading and interacting with people and like providing technology for hyperspace travel, I think it was the type that they used. So, you know, they do stuff like that. And like having a game where you play as them and go explore and like see different things around events and civilizations around the universe would be really, really cool. I don't necessarily know how you'd make that a good game, but I think there's a lot that they could be doing in that setting that they just haven't really explored. It seems like there's a lot of written notes and there's stuff to work with there, and I wish they'd do more with it. But I also understand why they haven't. It's kind of bounced around. It's one of those properties that has potential, but just keeps kind of going to people who don't really succeed, and, you know, they go under, or a variety of things happen that cause issues. What are we missing for that house? Do we need more wood? Yeah, we need more wood. Please stop invading, for fuck's sake. Just stop. I know, like, I need to kill this, and this, and this, and this, and all that shit, but I can't get over there. It's just not gonna happen. Man, it is really coming down. We're getting hit by that storm. Hopefully power doesn't go out. It went out a couple times a few days ago, but it's been pretty stable since. But yeah, it'd be really great to see. I know we just, like I said, we just got Homeworlds, or not Homeworlds, we just got Deserts of Karak, which is kind of a Homeworld game. But it's not three-dimensional. It's not a space game. And I'd really love to see a space game. Another Homeworld RTS, or even like a Civilization type game. Because that actually might be really cool, because the whole plot element is that you can't... Interplanetary travel is really difficult. And they have hyperdrives or whatever, but there's only like a few, and the way it worked was apparently like each civilization only really had one, and they would get lost. Like if you lose it to an enemy, you're fucked, basically, and they'd be fighting and trying to, you know, do their thing. So that was a really cool plot element as well, because it's sort of similar to when you get like a fantasy setting where it's low fantasy, where, yeah, there's magic. Like, something like Game of Thrones would be a really good example, where you have magic, but it's not like, oh, come on, dude. I don't understand how half of you follow orders and the other half just don't give a fuck. Please fight. Thank you. But yeah, Game of Thrones is a good example where you're used to fantasy, right? Everyone understands fantasy. You get stuff like Lord of the Rings. Well, actually, Lord of the Rings is almost a good example of low fantasy. Even though you have different species, like, magic isn't that prevalent. But, I mean, you have to understand, it doesn't feel that way watching the movies, but Gandalf is basically like a demigod. And, like, all his magic and shit, even the fireworks are, like, probably well beyond something that any mortal could actually do. So, as I understand it, makes it seem more fantastical than it actually is. It's actually pretty low fantasy overall. But let's stick with the Game of Thrones example. Game of Thrones is a good example of kind of low fantasy, and something basically like low sci-fi would also be kind of cool, where all the like crazy bullshit that happens in sci-fi is like, oh, universal translator and hyperdrive for everyone, and you can go anywhere very quickly, and on and on. Being able to replicate matter all the time, and holodecks or whatever you want to call them. Things like that are just not as simple as just saying, yeah, just do the thing, and actually making it a little bit more grounded in reality, I guess, where they can't just do whatever they want. Because, I mean, you can't imagine there's probably not going to be a time where we can just do anything. So that kind of element in Homeworld of having, you know, look, you cannot travel long distances like that without this unit, and if you lose it, you're completely fucked, and you're not going to get another one, because there's only like 5 left in the whole universe. That was pretty cool, and I enjoyed it, because you see low fantasy, like with Game of Thrones, where magic is there, but also not very well understood or prevalent, or strong for the most part. You mostly just have prophecies that's like, well, is it coming true because you said it would come true and it's self-fulfilling, or is it coming true because it's actually a prophecy? Things like that, and then I don't want to get too much into the Game of Thrones things, but if you watch it and you know about the show, you know about the setting, then you probably kind of know what I'm talking about. Having that in a sci-fi setting just doesn't happen much. Like, normally with sci-fi, it's just, you know, well, you can do whatever. If we need to invent something as a plot device to make X, Y, and Z work, then that's what we're gonna do. There's no real low fantasy or low sci-fi out there, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's not even necessarily the right way of saying it. And I think Homeworld, in some ways, kind of filled that void. And also, the final reason I'm going to cite for it being, like, amazing and something that I really enjoyed and would like to see more of is the ship designs were fucking cool. If I ever get to design a spaceship and just travel the cosmos and explore, I would want it to look like the Mother Yacht, as some would call it, which was the big giant, like, almost like flying banana slice, basically. And that's a really stupid way of saying it, but if you see it, you know what I mean. It's the protagonist's mothership from Homeworld 2. It's a big, like, slice thing. It's nice, I enjoyed it. And then, like, the side would come off to send ships out, and it was very cool. I like spaceships. I think everyone does anyone not like spaceships? They're just fucking cool. Some of them are stupid, like the spiky ones. The ones that just look like, hey, look, it's a fighter jet, but it looks futuristic. No, fuck that. Show me, like, an actual spaceship that looks like a spaceship, and that'll be cool. Anyway, that is going to do it before I start gushing about other spaceships. That's going to do it for this episode, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us for the next one as well. Take care.